feel good?
I feel good. Yes, I'm ready.
Okay,
Let's rock it.
okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maggie. This is This Great City, and this is going to be our first segment of Follow the Pin. For those of you who don't know about This Great City is a referral business network. We focus on individuals and small businesses who are working on building their business and meeting new people and learning what makes each city so great. So today I am joined by my friend and beautiful friend, Franny, who I met 4 years ago now, by chance. So I had moved into a house on a month-to-month contract, and I ended up meeting Franny and now our Australian friend, Jack. And what was so great about meeting you, Franny, was you had such a unique energy. You're very flowy. You go with whatever's thrown at you, you just take it and you're like, yeah, okay, so I'm eating just berries today and that's fine. And then it's such a refreshing outlook on life and the places you've been and the stories that you have and just like the genuine authenticity that is Franny is what I think of. And so when I was approached to start a show that was reaching out to locals and reaching out to people who are passionate about Canada and passionate about what they do and good at what they do, my first person that I came to think about was you. I'll be honest. The very first person I thought of, I was like, I gotta talk to Franny. And I was like, is my boss producer, is he gonna be okay with me just all of a sudden sliding in my own friends? And he was, and here we are. So Franny, that's my intro for you, but I would love to hear more. I know everybody else would love to hear more about who you are and what you do. So go ahead.
Yes, what an introduction. And I had to laugh so much about the berries because I laugh because it's true kind of thing. Lots of adventures, lots of good memories for sure. You know what's funny? You were one of the first people basically that I met when I freshly moved to Canada on my little working holiday adventure 4 years ago, which is insane to think about. It was almost exactly because it was March 2017. And then, I had the little break in between, but I am back.
Yeah.
Well, for everybody, I am Franny, and also my pen name is Robin, and this is what you will see on my book and on my Our Connected World kind of brand. But I am originally Italian from Europe, and I moved to Canada on a working holiday at first. And my plan was to stay for only 6 months, and well, here we are, returning. And working and living in Canada, and just kind of fell in love with the country, met the right people just from the start, among which Maggie, that definitely sold it really well to me. So I kind of even voluntarily came back and really thought to come back. And now, I came back exactly in 2020, which has been a crazy, crazy year. And I think that in that sense, yeah, the whole COVID and timing was great and bad at the same time. But I think one thing that you said in the introduction about, trying to get the opportunities and making the best out of something, it is probably true. It is a little bit of a trait of mine that I have, and that I kind of want to reflect in Our Connected World as well. So I am here because basically I try to make the best out of something crazy like COVID and, follow my passions of travel and languages. And so that's where we're at now.
Perfect. Yeah. And that's why my boss was so intrigued by you when I was telling your story, right? Like I just said, Franny's been all around the world. I know she studied in California. She's been around Europe. She speaks like every language I've ever heard of. and like she picks things up. And I even told him how there were times when I didn't even think that we would have full meals, but you taught me how to just live off rice noodles and vegetables. So and we had full meals as vegetarians.
That was the thing, right? Also finding vegetarian meals. Yep. No,
Yeah.
That's true.
And you made me gluten-free pizza crust, like an Italian made me pizza crust, okay? And it was good. Obviously, I mean, you just knew how to do it. It was just, and then there was pizza crust in the microwave or wherever you hid it from us. Um,
Love for pizza.
yeah, right. Um, so that's, it's a good like intro to you, but I know we're gonna want to know more. So you kind of mentioned Robin Who, and you mentioned Our Connected World. So who is Robin? Who is Robin Who?
Yeah, who is Robin Who? Pun intended. Yeah, so basically, well, it is me. I just chose to have a pen name because I think that was also part of my whole, kid dream thing is like publish a book, but with a pen name. And I like puns. So the whole idea behind the name is actually Robin Hood, which was one of my, heroes when I was a kid. I was like, I love Robin Hood. And then I was like, okay, to keep them mysterious, I can make a pun and say Robin Who. So this is how the whole name started. But who she is, it is still me. It is totally me, how she talks, the stories that are in the book as well. Basically, what I want to do as Robin Who, now I said Hood, as Robin Who, as Our Connected World, is taking all that learnings that I've had through life experiences, through, living across 2 continents in 8 countries, all the different traveling I've done. I mean, I've moved around since I was 3 years old, at first with family. I didn't just, found my independence at 3. That would be kind of a cool story, but no. But yeah, and moving a lot. And when I was 12, we moved with my family from Italy to Germany. And I think that was the biggest turning point in life. I had to be surrounded, and I was totally surrounded by people who spoke languages I had no idea about. I mean, you learn some English. I was 12 years old or so. So my English was very basic. And on top of it, I was in Germany. So it was not even English around me. It was also German. So I was thrown a little bit into this international world. And I just remember the struggles with it. I mean, between the age I had, but also not being able to communicate with people, not being able to understand. I'd be like finding those cultural differences that I wouldn't have found if I had stayed in Italy, obviously. Ways people, even humor, like little things that are so for granted and normal when you kind of stay in the same environment, and then you're thrown into a new one. You're like, what happened?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what's really made me passionate, I think, about travel on one side and languages on the other. And I really see them as being connected. I mean, all about connections, but I really see them as being connected because I think like when you travel and you can fight that language barrier, whether it is you're moving abroad like an expat or, long-term exchange or something, or you're just traveling for a month, for some weeks, being able to speak with the people of the place and meet the locals, it really empowers you to immerse in the culture, really learn, and make of that trip, of that travel, a real positive transformation for you and for your life. Because whatever you learn, it automatically becomes integral part of yourself, of your life. You can apply it to your daily life even when you go back. There's no trip where you go and you're like, okay, that was it. No, there's somehow there's some impact. And if I just wanted to kind of bring that message, and it all started with a podcast actually, of talking to people about their stories, which is something that I was really missing because I wasn't able to travel. And usually when you travel, you just have random conversations with strangers. And that is one of the beauties of traveling. It opens your eyes. It really, like sometimes having a conversation with a total stranger can really change your day, can really, really, really impact you. And so I started off with that. And then kind of, actually you were among one of those saying, hey, you should write a book. You have such random stories. I was like, okay. It was one of my kids' dreams to write and publish a book. And so that's what happened in 2020. And then from that, Our Connected World started. And it's all about finding those connections. And with that, finding those opportunities to live a life that you feel happy, fulfilled, a life that you feel it's healthy for you.
Yeah. So essentially what I'm understanding is Germany changed your outlook on life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're totally right. Then just being thrown into that, and that's also when I started learning English. I started learning German, I started learning Spanish, and I had a love for languages, I think, before, like even among Italian dialects. I always was a dream to be able to speak English fluently. I was like babbling, I was like 10 years old, babbling like like things that sounded English to me without knowing words. So it was always a dream. I was always into linguistics. I did a linguistic high school as well. I've always found it interesting. But I think Germany gave me the key to being able to study abroad. I studied in Holland. So, I studied in English. And then from there, it's just, it all, I don't know, kind of unfolds in that way. And I was able to, through languages and so on, I was able to make my dreams and what I wanted to in life come true, kind of.
Yeah. That's really cool because because I know you. I know you've been able to take this passion and go around the world, but like maybe drop a few names. Which cities have you visited? Which countries? Where do you want to go next?
Oh God. I'll start with where I've been, because where I want to go next, I think, takes up the whole interview. Oh God, it's an addiction, I tell you. Country-wise, I've lived in Italy, Germany, Holland, the UK, Ireland, California, as you mentioned, and Canada. Yeah, and I lost count, and Austria actually briefly. So those were kind of like the countries, and I always like to say that probably also shaped me the most, just because I lived there, I stayed there longer, met people, created relationships, and have friends from those countries. But then traveled. I kind of did most of Europe. I'm just missing a little bit of the Eastern Europe, which is on my list.
Yeah.
I'm here, just like the list gets longer, never gets shorter, kind of thing. Because you just tick one off, and you're like, oh my God, I want to also go there. And then I've traveled throughout Southeast Asia. That was my first backpacking trip. It was me and one of my best friends from uni, Nadia. Hi, Nadia. If you listen to this, she's actually traveling right now in her van around Europe. I know. Totally not jealous. Totally not jealous.
Yeah.
But yeah, we kind of went, and I landed in Bangkok. It was like I was 19 or something, and I was like, what's happening, and it was really good to do this first trip with a friend, and then we met a lot of great people on the road, and I think that's when I fell in love with backpacking.
Yeah.
By staying in hostel and meeting people, you realize, oh my God, there's like, you're abroad, but you kind of always like end up finding people. Like, you never really feel alone. Like, if you want to be alone, you can be, but you never like alone. There's always someone, like, you maybe sometimes re-meet on the path super randomly. People who want the same things. They just want to learn about a country, cherish the moment, explore, do whatever, and you kind of create your day as you go. And it was something that really made me fall in love with traveling. It's like a happy bubble. You create what you want. You do it a little bit. You're more present, and I think that's the main difference from sometimes the daily life. It really teaches you to be present and take a step back. And I think I personally, and I know other people have it too, sometimes you have work and you have this and you have duties and responsibilities, and you're like thrown into this avalanche of like, and the future, and then, oh my God, I had to do this, and and sometimes you miss, I don't know, like the beautiful weather we have right now and the squirrels playing, or you miss like to think about, hey, I really feel like doing this right now, I'm gonna do this, and take that time. Or like, I'm gonna take 10 minutes to write back to all my friends and really nurture those relationships
Yeah.
and things like that. So that's how I fell in love with backpacking. And
Yeah.
my latest trip was to Colombia.
Yeah.
And that was really a great trip. Throughout COVID was a little bit more difficult, but definitely needed it after a year of staying in the same place. But I have to say, one thing that made me fall in love with Canada even more was actually during COVID, we got to explore outdoors,
Yeah.
way more, because that's the only thing we can do, right? But there's a lot of camping, and I felt very fortunate to be in a place like Canada where there's miles and miles and miles of land, and you can just go be in the nature really easily. I live in Ottawa, so actually we're surrounded, like when the borders are not closed with Quebec. There's amazing nature, even like a little bit wilder over there.
Mhm.
Have all these great national, provincial parks, and cottage experience. So I did a lot of Canadian experiences that I hadn't had the chance to do before COVID.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And you went dog sledding.
when dog sledding, oh my god! At first, like we talked about being vegetarian and stuff. Obviously,
Yeah.
you try to be ethical with the animals. I was really, really scared. I was like, oh my god, does this hurt? And like, am I going against my value of like, I don't want to do something that hurts animals? But then I was there, and I have to say, the dogs are so crazy about no, they're crazy about going. They're the most excited. Like, I'm like, they're just there, and they're obviously the people take really good care of them. And they just love it. Like, I'm actually wondering, how are they doing now with the heat and everything? Like, like they're probably just hibernating, vice versa, than the bears. Like,
Yeah.
they are so excited. They loved the run, and it was a great experience. You see all the scenery, the amazing trees, and you actually enjoy the snow. You're like, oh, it's way nicer than in the city.
Well, that's, you know what, when you were talking about like your first time traveling and how you went with a friend, it actually reminded me of something that you do have coming up, and that's the Solo Female Traveler Festival. So before we get back into talking about your podcast and your book, why don't you tell us about that? Like what you have going on, and what's coming for you, Franny, the entrepreneur, the artist, the marketer. What's happening with you?
Thank you for all these titles. Yeah, no, Empowerful. That's what's coming up next. First, next is that See, sometimes you speak four languages and then you're like confused about our life. Yeah, so Empowerful is actually an ongoing festival, so it's actually throughout the whole year. It's just that they change speakers or add speakers through like every month. It's a festival for solo female travelers, and it's all around the topics of well-being, health, and safety for solo female travelers. It's a great initiative. Solo Female Travelers Club is founded by Mar and Meg. They are travelers themselves, journalists, like living for travel basically, and they decided to create a community for women, and kind of also go into topics that are particular for solo female travelers. And obviously safety is a big one, and then everybody, especially nowadays, is really focusing on well-being as well. And so that's kind of the topics that you can find. There's 30 plus speakers. There's lessons like self-defense, like lessons about even like safe online like dating, like online dating, or meeting people while you travel, or dating while traveling, things like that are very important to know. And it's important to feel confident about and safe about how to do with it, so that you can enjoy your travels, or you don't want to think about having troubles and stuff. So I had the great honor and opportunity to be one of the speakers, and actually end of the month, it's my session is coming out. And of course, it's just the topics of language and culture. So my session is all about using languages and how that can help feeling more confident when navigating in new cities, in new countries, and how to also, I will say this. This is basically a session about language and culture, what it means to, understand what's happening around you, which is very important for safety and confidence levels while you travel. And then, of course, the impact of language and being able to connect with locals, connect with people that you meet on your travels. And basically the takeaway, and it's a practical takeaway from the session, is a little 7 steps book to create your almost like communication, mini book that you can bring with you wherever you go. So you have all those, sentences and words and whatever you need in order to feel safe and confident when navigating, and be kind of prepared. So resources as well are part of the session too. Yeah. So I really hope that helps solo female travelers making the best of their travels and feeling safe while doing so.
Well, I'm really happy that they reached out to someone like you, because I know, like, I'm not. I want to be one of those travelers, but I know I just haven't been able to do it for whatever X reasons. So like it's like when I do think of these things, like I've used some of your tips, like when I went to the Philippines, when I went to Boston, when I went to, like the places that I've been able to go to, like I used it, and like when I met you and Jack, like there were so many things that I was unaware of in my own city, right? So you guys showed me a whole different part of Canada that I didn't even know existed if I hadn't met you guys. And like that is so surreal to know that that was even a possibility, like there were opportunities that I didn't think I had a chance to. There were places that we went to that I never thought I'd go to, you know like you guys, like you, Franny, like you opened such a big chapter, and so I'm just really glad that we get to have you here, and I'm so happy to see you, like succeed and perspire, and like just Franny. And yeah, that just we talked about the solo female traveler, and you did mention your podcast and you mentioned your book. I actually, I brought your book with me. I don't even, oh, there we go. Yeah, I brought it. And I'm going to be dropping the link in the comments for you guys to buy Franny's Frantastic Stories. Why don't you tell us about Frantastic Stories? Like, what is it? What does it do?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, Frantastic Stories is a collection of short stories, and it's a bilingual book. So everything that is in English is also in Spanish. And that was simply because I wanted the book to also be a tool for whoever is interested in learning Spanish. I mean, if you're not, you can still read it. But if you are, it is a nice way to learn, like just by reading and comparing, like you're able to have a translation right there in case you don't know a word or something. But the whole idea behind it actually started in airports. I know. Sitting in airports, I've always wanted to be a writer. I've always wanted to publish at least a book. I have a couple of other ideas, but this one was the most natural that came first. Why is it short stories? Because it was basically me going through travels. I'm sitting in hostels, I'm sitting in cafes, I'm sitting in airports, I'm sitting on a train, and I'm writing as I go. So there's, it's chapters and reflections on different moments of my life. There's each story is in a different place, and it's almost it is a story to inform. Like there's one about Oman for I thought it was a super interesting country. So of course there's also those travel aspects and talking about that. But I think a big thing behind Fantastic Stories is reflecting. There is a lot about life and wonders kind of reflections throughout the book. There's two main characters. The first one is Jane, which is this travel lover. She goes around, backpacks, and she does also have those moments of reflection. There's a lot of me in her, I realized afterwards. So that's Jane. And then the other one is actually I think history is always important when traveling, when going on. So I wanted to do a little bit of an homage to my grandmother, and so I took the stories that she would, I grew up with. She would tell me, and they're based in Italy, north of Italy, where I'm originally from, and of course during the Second World War, because that's the time my grandma was growing up. Unfortunately, during my grandma was growing, that was not English. My during the Second World War, because that's the time that unfortunately my grandma was growing up throughout. And yeah, so Henrietta, based on my grandma Enrica, she's a freedom searcher, and freedom is definitely a big topic in that story, not only because it's based during a period of dictatorship, but because that's also how my grandma was. And I think freedom is it's again a reflection on that and what we give for granted. And it's such a great value and such a great human right that we have. And sometimes we forget what it means not to have it.
Yeah.
And so I really felt it matched well with what the stories are about and what I was hoping readers would reflect on.
Yeah.
And yeah, she was a character. She was a great modern grandma as well, obviously great at cooking, lasagna, everything. Like I'll never get to those levels, I know that, but she was a little bit of a rebel too, like first woman to wear jeans in and riding like in motorcycles in the back with her brother, or like things like that for the time were like, what is happening? She's like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, I cannot buy jeans for women. She was a tailor, so she made her own jeans, like things like that, like really empowering character, I find.
Yeah. Actually, it rubbed off on you.
A little bit. That's
Yeah.
I've heard that before.
Yeah. Well, like everything you said, I'm like, that sounds like Franny. This sounds like Franny. And like when I read through your book, I really could see you. And like, I feel really lucky because I know you. So while I'm reading this book, I really feel like I'm hanging out with Franny again. I get to see you one more time. I get to experience Franny in written form. And I know like you also have a podcast. So that was one of the first things that you did was you uploaded a podcast where you were telling stories, and now you do interviews. Follow her on Spotify. So like, how about like, how has that evolved for you? What was that process like?
That was, that was totally COVID consequence kind of thing. It was like, okay, can't go anywhere. I needed to do something. I was gonna go crazy. Like it was literally first sent. It was like, let's start something completely new, challenging, because I had no idea about podcasts.
Mhm.
And then I was like, I didn't want to do video, even though I like editing, but just I was like, this isn't easy. I just need a microphone and and a concept and finding people. And somehow I was, I don't know, lucky, right timing, whatever one believes in. I found so many people interested in being on the show, and it picked up really fast. Now we actually completed like the second season, so I feel like it kind of came to a nice circle. Now, I started off with these stories. It's always about travel a little bit, but more like travel and projects around it. So one is like travel and mindfulness, travel and comedy, travel and productivity. Actually, that was
Yeah.
the first episode. Like all these aspects of life and throughout stories of other people. So for me, it really enriched me from a perspective of like, in lockdown with everything that was happening, I was able to have those conversations with at first strangers, and by the end of the conversation you're like, oh my god, I still have like some of my guests on on Instagram. Sometimes we chat and we still support each other, and it's amazing. You're like, oh my god, it's exactly how it happens in travel. You just sometimes just click, right? And then you continue like that kind of relationship that you had from a conversation. And so it to be honest, it kept my spark, it kept my positivity. And a lot of these people have great projects. They're helping other people with their dreams, they're helping other people with well-being, they're helping other people with mindfulness, like all these kind of topics. So for me was very, very much of an honor to have them. I don't know how it happened. Like, I mean, I was reaching out and I was on certain platforms to find guests, but like just an overwhelming amount of great guests, and really matching the podcast too.
Yeah.
So that was one big one. And then recently I had an interview with expat girl in Ireland, funny enough, where I just lived for a year and a half. And she's Argentina, so we did a whole interview in Spanish to kind of go back to that language aspect. So yeah, the two season came kind of to a whole. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was a great journey, to be honest.
Yeah. Podcasts, or is that?
I think we so I moved it now to YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, so the podcast kind of concluded with that, and you still find it on Spotify. It's still on there because it was my baby. I can't
Yeah.
just but you will also find things on YouTube. And like a big thing, and for whoever is listening and is again an entrepreneur, small business, side hustle, kind of person. I think like what the main struggle is at the beginning when you start these journeys. I mean, somehow it worked out for me, but like I had moments where I really had to step back and think, what should I concentrate on? Especially like people who are entrepreneurs, small business, where does, full of initiative, proactive ideas. And sometimes like the main struggle is really to get the clarity and really to get that focus. I find that was so for me, it started off with a podcast, and then the moment I kind of decided to swap to YouTube, it was for me, okay, like I'm not erasing it, it's still there, it's still on all the podcast directories.
Mhm.
I will put some of the things, there's already one, the travel and mindfulness episode on YouTube, actually, from the podcast. But I had to make a choice, and then I eventually chose, okay, for what I need now, YouTube is the channel that I need to focus on together with Instagram. So, one person, I need
Yeah.
one person 10 to 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the story behind the podcast, but I think it was the right moment. It like completed that
Yeah.
circle. And now, on YouTube, it's again, actually, Jane is still there from the book. She's well, it's me with a hat, but doesn't it's me with like an outfit.
Yeah.
But you see some of those, there's kind of like characters that there's the same idea that you have behind, stories and the book. You have characters for each. So you have a Latin America character that teaches Spanish. You have Jane from the book, who's all about, travels and slow travel, which is the main topic of, our connected world as a brand. It's all like slow travel in particular, like the fact that you have that type of mindset when you go. It doesn't mean that you're slow, literally slow, like a sloth or something.
Yeah.
It simply means that you go at your own pace. You don't just tick every box of like top 10 thing. No, you do, and you create the journey that you want to go on, kind of thing. So she talks about that. And then there's Laura from Spain, who also teaches Spanish, but it's all like more like humanistic stuff and dancing and things like that. So there's different characters, and that's why I needed YouTube, because you can
Thank you.
you
Yeah.
can recognize them. Face is the same, but
Like, you've given us so much. You've given us so much insight, and everything that you've accomplished so far is absolutely incredible. That's why I needed you to be the first one. I think this is such a strong start to this kind of segment, because we want to build our networks. We want to show people what you're capable of, like, and by you, I mean like the collective you. Look what like a little bit of hard work, some ambition, perseverance, and all these obstacles that you overcame, right? Like if you break apart your life into all those points of where you could have given up and you didn't, I think it just speaks volumes on everything that you've done. And that's why, like, I'm so proud of you. And like, I had to buy your book, I have to follow you, like these are things that, as networks, as we grow and as we want to support, we want to watch our friends succeed. And like, I'm super passionate about that. I slammed my hand down on the desk, like that's what I
passion.
want to do. I want to make sure that I watch my friends grow, because I love what you do. I love Frantastic Stories. I love that you're teaching languages. I love it all. I've learned so much from you, and I know I'm going to keep learning from you. So I'm just really grateful that you came here.
Oh, you getting me all sentimental, girl. Thank you so much. Like to hear that from a dear friend, like such as you. It's really words that's, yeah. Like now I'm even more motivated. Let's go. More. The fact that you're so supportive as well, and the fact that you just said that you learned from me in whatever way. That's for me like a greatest, I cannot swear on TV or wherever we are, but F great accomplishment. A really amazing accomplishment. It fills my heart with joy, that's it. And this is also what keeps me going, like knowing that there's that that impact that I'm helping. Like, it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be 100 people, 1,000 people. It has to be even that one person, even my friends, my family, what, knowing that is, for me, like really a flame to keep
Mhm.
me going as well. So, but yeah, and you know what? You said it really right. I think giving up in those situations and giving up in moments of struggles is like sometimes the easy door, like it just opens by itself.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, you just gotta go through, and it takes a moment. It takes a moment because I'm not gonna like, the amount of times I wanted to give up. And I talk to people who are also entrepreneurs and stuff, and they have the same. They're like, oh my god, am I even like, why am I even bothering? You get to the point where you're asking yourself, why am I even going through it? So one big suggestion that I've learned on my journey is to have that why really strong. If it is your passion, if it is what you want to accomplish, if it is the change that you want to make to yourself, to your friends, to whoever your audience is,
Mhm.
take a step back and go back to why did you start all of this? Because there is a why. Just sometimes we don't take the moment to think about it. But there is a why, and going back to it, you will do it more than once. Trust me.
Yeah.
You go back to it, and you envision again why you started all of it, and that's how you get through not giving up on a visa, not giving up on a project, on a book,
Yeah.
and I know you know it, Maggie, because I know you've punched through life and accomplished a lot yourself. But yeah, I just wanted to share that message because we've all been through it, and sometimes we forget how common it is.
Yeah, it's really easy. It can be really easy to think that you're alone, you know, especially when you don't want to like talk about it or anything. But there are networks out there. There's supportive people out there, you know. I didn't even know about all the different traveler support that there was out there until I followed your page. So just knowing that there are groups, that there are support groups, that there's people out there that are willing to engage and support you, you know, like those networks, it's super important. Which really just correlates to what this great city is all about. It's about supporting each other and building each of us up from the ground, you know, and you put as much work as you want out of it, right? Like, and we just see from you how much that's done, right? With everything you've done in less than a year, in less than 5 years, what you've been able to accomplish, right? That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's I had a look at the great city, and I was blown away by the concept of it. Like I found out through about it through you, and I was like, oh my god, that is a great thing to have. And it's in Toronto, it's like in one of the major Canadian cities, and it becomes this network. And I think this is something that COVID has given us the opportunity for, creating this network, creating these platforms where people can be empowered, that people can be connected on, that people can go and find suggestions and find support that we need more and more, because like the world gets overwhelming sometimes, and to find the right person, sometimes it's even the one comment, the one suggestion that you get that changes your experience, right? So I think it is amazing, and it is probably one of the benefits that we got from taking a step back, living in this slower world, which thankfully, yes, is coming slowly back to more normal, or
Yeah.
whatever the normal will be. But it gave us that opportunity to grow these networks online so that anyone can reach it from anywhere and make the best from it.
Yeah. I think that's a really great note to end this on. It's uplifting. We had a lot of content that we talked about. It's our first session. So yeah, I really want to thank you, Franny, for taking this time with me. Thank you for being so excited to take this time with me. I super appreciate that. I can't wait to get this video out there so that we can share more. I'm going to definitely be dropping a bunch of the links in the description box for everything that we talked about. Links to Franny, Our Connected World, where to buy her book, her YouTube channel, all of that. So anything that we talked about, I'll be posting it there. So don't worry, it'll be there.
Thank you so much, Maggie, for having me. I am excited and I'm so honored to be the first. I'm like, hey. Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, again, thank you so much for being a great host, a natural.
Thanks, Franny. Yeah, thanks for being a great interviewee. Yes.
Even? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's English.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. All right. Well, I will speak to you offline later. And thanks again.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye, Franny.